For my final mapping project, I chose to create a St. Petersburg-based board game called Escaping Petersburg. The basic concept of my game refers to Pushkin's Bronze Horsemen. Tourists come to Petersburg to immerse themselves in culture, but when they find the Bronze Horsemen, they realize they must flee the city and run away from the statue that is now chasing them. Players or tourists begin at the statue of Peter the Great and must exit at the designated area. Before exiting the city, the tourists must stop and take pictures at some of the most famous historical landmarks. Players roll a dice to move across the board. When they reach a landmark or a bridge, they must answer a trivia question from the corresponding trivia cards regarding that place in order to take a picture or cross the bridge. Here's a rough draft of what the cards would be. If the player responds with a correct answer, they are allowed to move to another place or cross the bridge on their next turn. However, if the answer is incorrect, the player must remain at that place until their next turn. Players must also move the Bronze Horseman game piece one spot closer to the Nevsky Prospect to exit the city. The horseman can only follow one path, shown with the green, yellow, and red squares. If the horseman gets to the exit while players remain on the board in search of landmarks, those players lose. Players who got to the exit before the horseman win. The tourists must avoid the horseman at all times. If a player runs into the horseman, they must place their piece at the starting position. The player must continue from there to collect the remaining pictures they need and exit the game. If the horseman is in the red zone of his path and a tourist lands on a white square with a purple question mark, the tourist must draw a card from the corresponding trivia pile and ask their fellow tourists a question. If they answer correctly, the horseman gets pushed back one space. If the answer is incorrect, the horseman stays where he is on the board. Each of the landmarks I chose for this project have a relation to the coursework we discussed. The entire concept of the game epitomizes Pushkin's story, except it is tourists who are running away from the horsemen chasing them. We talked about the weakness in the facade of Petersburg, which prompted me to make the exit a way out of the city. The idea of Peter the Great, a figure of strength, chasing them from the city symbolizes that the people's inner urgency to salvage themselves while they can by getting out of the city before their strength and morality and their character in general leaves them trapped with weakness. Vosnesensky Bridge was a landmark discussed in regard to crime and punishment. It is when Raskolnikov watches a woman attempt suicide from this bridge that he realizes he, too, planned to jump off of the bridge. The bridge serves as a saving aspect in the book, therefore it resembles a saving aspect in the game as well, as it is necessary to stop there before successfully escaping the city. The 4 colored bridges on my board game are included to represent the almost excessive pride Petersburg holds in their bridges. Some trivia corresponding to the bridges are specific to those bridges, and some are general bridge questions. We talked about the Hermitage or the Winter Palace when we watched the movie The Russian Ark. Trivia includes historical questions about the palace and modern trivia on the museum aspect of the palace. When we began exploring Petersburg, we observed the architecture and colors, specifically in the Church of the Savior on Spilled Blood. Although we did not discuss St. Isaac's Cathedral in great detail, it still serves as of religion, which is very prevalent in Petersburg. This map is not to scale, however, the relationship in the distances of the landmarks are similar to how they are in actual St. Petersburg. I also read Gogol's piece on Nevsky Prospect. Therefore, I included Nevsky Prospect as a main getaway for the Bronze Horsemen.